Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Southern Reads Podcast, the show where I talk about books and only books and everything book related. Today, I'm joined by Miss Michele Defilippo. She has more than 50 years of experience in book publishing, and her company, 1106 Design, makes it easy for authors to release a top quality book, keep control of it, and earn more money every time they sell a copy. She is on a mission to help authors ask the right questions to make informed decisions about publishing their books. A PDF of her 88-page guide, Published Like the Pros, A Brief Guide to Quality Self-Publishing, is available now and can be downloaded for free at 1106design.com. And today she's here and she's going to share a little bit more about the book publishing world. Can I share a little bit more about her experience in her company? So I'm really excited. So Michele, thank you so much for coming on Southern Reads. I'm excited to have you on and thank you so much for coming on today.
Well, thank you, Noah. I appreciate the opportunity to serve your listeners and talk about books. It's one of my favorite subjects.
So I would just take me to the beginning, share with me a little bit about your experience with books and what the book publishing world has been like for you.
Well, as you can imagine, I've seen a lot of ups and downs in the industry. My first job in publishing was at Crown Publishers in New York way back in 1972. And it was pretty much an accident. I was going on job interviews after getting out of college, and Crown Publishers was the first company that offered me a job. So I accepted it, and that's how I wound up in the publishing industry.
So you've been in there the for a long time and you've been with book publishing forever. Are there some deep secrets about book publishing that most authors are not aware of that they should know about before publishing a book?
Well, sure. The reason I'm doing these podcast interviews is because in the last 20 years or so, a lot of misinformation has crept into the self-publishing industry. When self-publishing first began around 1995, 2000, when Amazon came on the scene, authors understood that you should release a top quality book and you should keep control of it and you should earn all the money that you can when a book is sold. And over the years, different kinds of companies have come into the space and not to the benefit of authors, unfortunately. So that's what I love to educate people and remind them about what self-publishing should be and how they are sometimes being misguided by some of the things you can find online today.
So with your company, 1106 Design, tell me a little bit about what makes your company different from most book publishing companies.
Okay, so our main difference is that we are not a book publishing company. We serve authors with the services they need to publish a book, and that includes everything from editing to cover design, interior design and layout, ebook formatting, proofreading, the whole raft of services that you need to prepare a market quality book. When we're done with those services, we set the author up so that they are the publisher of their book. And that's beneficial to them because they maintain complete control over their book and they also make more money. When authors work with a publisher, and in today's world, the publisher often charges the author to produce the book. That never used to be the case, but it is now. Hybrid publishers will charge the author to produce the book and set them up for distribution in the publisher's account. And then the publisher will keep some of the money from sales and give the author only a small portion of that revenue. When you work with us, we set you up in your own print on demand distribution account so that when a book is sold, you get all of the money in your bank account. We don't take any of your back end sales. We do charge for services, of course, but we don't take any of the money that should go directly to you when you sell a book.
When authors go into the book publishing process and they're trying to promote this to their book out there, do book publishing companies do a really good job of promoting the book, or do authors kind of have kind of a low expectation, or do book publishing not really do a lot of the publishing and kind of self promotion that a lot of authors are really wanting.
Well, that really depends on the publisher today. There are so many companies in the marketplace that it's impossible to say what every one of them does. In traditional publishing years ago, the publisher would give the book a marketing push, at least for 6 months or so, until they moved on to the next thing. Today, that's less likely to happen. And in today's self-publishing world, some of the self-publishing companies don't do any marketing at all, or if they do, they charge the author for it while they're still taking money on the back end from sales. So that's the reason I like to talk about this subject because to my way of thinking, if the author is investing money in the book and sometimes in the marketing of the book, then they should get the full return on that investment. The publisher doesn't really have a reason to take any of the profits because they have no investment in the book. So that's really where the sticking point is for me.
Is there any cut time when, compared to other book publishing things, what is the typical timeline it takes for a book to be published, and how long does it normally take the average author?
Well, for a traditional publisher, it could take up to 2 years to get that book to market from the time you sign an agreement with a traditional publisher. And by traditional publisher, I'm referring now to the big guys, Random House, that kind of thing. It might take 2 years to get the book to market. And and then once it does come to market, the publisher will often not really be interested in it, 6 to 9 months later. So that's why independent publishing became so popular and continues to grow and grow and grow because authors, want to market their books for a longer period of time than that, and they want to get to market sooner than that. So with us, typically, it'll take 4 months or so to get the book out, to work through all the services and get that book distributed. And while we're doing those services and collaborating with the author can also be thinking about how am I going to promote this when it is finally done and ready to release.
One of the big mentions that you really go for is the chance for authors to make more money. And you kind of came out with a in your description, I really like this, is that with your company, you kind of help listeners and authors kind of get $5 to $7 on every book sale, where typically most publishers typically pay their authors $1 to $3. So share with me a little bit about why publishers don't really pay authors a lot whenever their book does make a sale or purchase.
Well, if we go back to traditional publishing now, back then, the author would submit a manuscript, the publisher would buy the rights to produce that manuscript, but the publisher would pay all the expenses to produce the book, right? They would hire the editors and designers and marketers and so forth, and so they had a lot of expenses, and they would then, in order to recoup that investment, pay the author just a small royalty whenever a book was sold, and they would take the rest of it in order to recoup the investment they had made. And that was really fair, right? The author didn't have to spend a penny. The author didn't have to do any of the work. And so the publisher played a necessary role back then. And back then also, it was the only way to get published. There were no Amazons, there were no self-publishing companies. So if an author wanted to get published, they had to work with a traditional publisher. And that's how self-publishing changed everything, because all of a sudden authors did not have to wait for anyone else's approval. They could publish the book they wanted to publish. They would make the investment in order to hire the experts to produce that book. And then the original idea was that they would earn all of the money from sales. And again, just like the traditional publisher, in order to recoup that initial investment. But that's when things started to get mixed up. Then we started to see self-publishing companies and hybrid publishers who charged the author to produce the book and then also took money out of the author's pocket on the back end, even though they had no investment in the book. And most authors just don't think they don't think about that. They think they need a publisher, and they may not think to ask, okay, you're paying me a royalty. How are you calculating that royalty? And so there is a way to do that, and I can provide links to people to do that so that they can compare at least objectively what a publisher is offering them and what they should be getting if they keep control of their book on their own with our help.
I've noticed a lot of self-publish or authors have turned to self-publishing due to the fact that the process of them having to go through publishers and they don't really get to see a lot of the pennies is really sad, and they kind of love doing it because it's stress-free. They have more creative control over it. Do you see a lot more authors in the future becoming more self-publishing than using these big name publishers?
Well, sure. It's very difficult, first of all, to get a big name publisher interested in your book. I work with an agent now and then who sends us a book that he can't place with a traditional publisher. So the big publishers, they're looking for authors who already have a very large platform. They're looking for people who have 100,000 social media followers and who are willing to, put in a big marketing book of their own. So that usually means, TV stars, movie stars, people who already have that platform.
Mm.
So self-publishing has grown exponentially. The last statistic I heard was that I think it was probably in 2024, 4 million books were self-published in 2024. So it's a tremendous market. It's a tremendous opportunity for authors, but it's also a tremendous challenge in terms of marketing that book because so many more books are coming out now.
Do you think that publishing companies need to focus more on being there for the authors and start paying more? And if so, how can they start that change of getting making it to where they can have more authors go use their publishing services?
Well, I don't, but like I said, I don't think authors need a publisher at all because all of the services they need to produce and market a book are available directly to them. So as long as they want to keep control of their book, they can do so today. And that's the message that has gotten buried in all of the things that you find online. If you go online and you say, I'm looking for a book publisher, you'll find them. I don't know that you'll find if you go looking for an author services company, which is what how I would describe our business. You can also find author services companies like us who manage the whole process for you and with you, so you don't have to go out and hire 5 or 6 freelancers. You don't have to figure out, if you don't know how to pick a good editor or you don't know how to pick a good designer, an author services company like mine fills in that gap because we have the experience to know who's going to do a good job, who's not going to do a good job, who's reliable, who's not. And that can be pretty scary if you try to do that on your own, especially if you're a first-time author.
From the others that have used your publishing services or have worked with you, what have been some success stories that you've seen from authors that maybe did use a traditional publisher before they came to you, and then since they've switched publishing services and they've worked with you, what have been some success stories of people that have come to you?
Well, you'll see on our website our probably the only famous author we've worked for is Bill Schley. He's a big time marketing expert, and he was published by the major publishers. And he found us about probably 10 or 15 years ago, and we've been working on his books ever since. And there's a quote by him on our website that he says he will never work any other way except to independently publish and with us because he's had the experience and many authors have had the experience of working with a publisher, and they then come to the realization that they prefer to have control And they certainly prefer to be paid more money every time they sell a book. Who wouldn't? You know, like you said, the difference can be, we can, when we set up the authors, they might make $6 to $8 per book, whereas a publisher, they might be paid $2 or $3 per book. So that's a really big difference, especially if the publisher is charging you for services.
What is your best advice to maybe there's authors out there listening to the podcast and they are hearing this and they would like to work with you? How can interested authors get in touch?
You can find us at 1106design.com, and you'll find on our website all kinds of educational articles. You'll see our design samples. I'm also 100% transparent in our pricing. So, unlike a lot of companies that serve authors, you will see our prices right on our website. And we are always happy to talk to you. Consultations are free. And what we can do is create a proposal for you specifically to your needs. We don't force you into predefined packages. We'll have a conversation with you and figure out what services you really need and want and offer you a quote for that.
Well, Michelle, I appreciate you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come on the podcast today to share this wonderful company that you have and to share this for authors. I think so many authors are going to find so much support and so much willingness in this. So I appreciate you for coming on. Where can people go to follow you and follow more about the 1106 Design Company so that they can follow you and stay up to date about any upcoming announcements in the future?
Oh, thank you. We would love to hear from you. We're on all the social channels under at 1106 Design. You can email me at md at 1106design.com. Ask me any question you want. I'll be happy to respond. And then again at our website, 1106design.com.
And I will put all this information in the description box below. Her website and socials will all be down there. So feel free to go reach out to her and reach out to the company if you ever have, if you're interested in working with them. I highly suggest it. Feel free to follow the podcast on the socials. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Southern.reads. Feel free to reach out to me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at Noah's Podcast. And you can get Southern Reads wherever you listen to your podcast from. You can go to the website, noahspodcast.com, to learn more about the podcast and find links to where all my socials and where the podcast is available. Feel free to subscribe or follow so you get notified when new episodes like this come out. And I appreciate you all so much for tuning in. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Be safe, and I will see you on the next episode of Southern Reads.